They called my mother a witch on a Tuesday. I was hammering iron in my forge when the guards came. They dragged her through the mud, while Lord Aldrich watched from his balcony, his face twisted with grief and rage. His younger brother had died that morning, from a fever my mother had been treating with herbal remedies. She'd tended him for 3 days, never leaving his bedside. It didn't matter. Someone had to pay for a noble's death. 40 days, the magistrate announced. She burns at the stake on the 40th dawn. I tried to speak, but Henrik pulled me back. "Don't," he whispered. "You'll only make it worse." Henrik, my betrothed, Lord Aldrich's cousin, but nothing like him. Where Aldrich was cruel and cold, Henrik had always been kind. We'd grown up together, sneaking away from our different worlds to meet by the river. We were to be married in 41 days. The timing felt like a sick joke. That night, I couldn't sleep. My father sat by the fire, head in his hands. We had no power, no money, no influence. My mother would die, and we were helpless. But I remembered my grandfather's stories about the old fortress dungeon, about a cell marked with ancient runes from a time when justice was absolute. I'd always thought they were just tales. I had to try. At midnight, I crept into the fortress dungeon. At the end of a forgotten corridor, I found it, an iron cell covered in glowing symbols. I cut my palm with my forging knife and let blood drip onto the ancient metal. The runes blazed to life. He rose from the floor like molten metal given form, a towering figure of living iron and burning coal, with eyes like forge fires. "You summon the Iron Judge," he said, his voice like hammers on anvils. "Speak your grievance." "My mother is innocent," I gasped. "Sentenced to burn for a crime she didn't commit. The boy died of natural fever. Please, save her." "I can overturn any unjust sentence," the judge said, "but justice demands balance. A life saved requires a life taken. Someone close to you has committed murder and walked free. You must execute them within 40 days, or your mother burns and your soul remains here, bound to this cell for eternity." "Who?" I whispered. The Iron Judge raised his hand. Images formed in the air, pictures made of smoke and fire. I saw Henrik, my Henrik, standing over a girl in a servant's dress. His hands were around her throat. She struggled. She stopped moving. He buried her in an unmarked grave. "No," I breathed. "That's impossible. Henrik would never—" "Henrik murdered the servant girl Elsa 3 years ago," the judge said flatly. "His family paid witnesses to lie. He has killed 3 others since." "You're lying," I screamed. "Henrik is kind. He loves me." The judge pressed his burning palm against my hand. Searing pain shot through my body. When he pulled away, glowing scales of justice marked my palm. 40 days. Kill Henrik, or your mother dies and you serve me forever. He sank back into the floor. The next morning, my mother's execution was mysteriously postponed to exactly 40 days away. The executioner's axe had shattered into pieces. That afternoon, Henrik came to my forge carrying wedding gifts, a silver comb, cloth for my dress, his grandmother's ring. 41 days until you're my wife, he said, kissing my forehead. I love you, Ragna. I looked at his kind eyes and gentle smile, and remembered those same hands choking the life from a girl. I spent the next 3 days trying to prove the Iron Judge wrong. Henrik couldn't be a murderer. He was the boy who'd cried when his dog died, who brought bread to hungry children in the village, who held me like I was made of glass. There had to be a mistake. I started asking questions carefully, too carefully. The servants in the fortress went quiet whenever I mentioned Elsa's name. Finally, an old cook whispered, Try the seamstress near the east gate. That was the girl's mother. I found her in a cramped room that smelled of thread and sorrow. She was thin, gray-haired, with eyes that had cried themselves dry years ago. "My Elsa," she said when I mentioned her daughter's name. "Beautiful girl, kind. She worked in the fortress kitchens." Her hands shook as she spoke. She rejected a young lord's advances, told him she was promised to a farmer's son. 3 days later, she vanished. "Did you see who took her?" I asked, my heart pounding. "A boy saw them arguing in the garden. Tall, dark-haired, with a birthmark on his left wrist shaped like a crescent moon. The boy described it to me before Lord Aldrich's guards scared his family into silence." My blood turned to ice. Henrik had a crescent moon birthmark on his left wrist. I'd traced it with my fingers 100 times. That night, the Iron Judge appeared in my forge fire. I watched the visions he showed me, unable to look away. Henrik dragging Elsa into the woods. The cold calculation in his eyes. The way he checked to make sure no one was watching before he squeezed harder. This wasn't passionate rage or an accident. It was methodical, practiced. "Please," I begged the flames. "Show me I'm wrong." The judge showed me more. 3 hunting accidents over the years. A stable boy who'd caught Henrik stealing. A servant girl who'd laughed at him. A merchant's son who'd beaten Henrik in a horse race. Each death made to look accidental. Each victim carefully chosen. People no one would miss or investigate. The brand on my palm burned hotter. I looked down and gasped. It had spread to my wrist, thin lines of molten metal crawling beneath my skin like veins of iron. The next day, Henrik visited my forge. I was sharpening a blade, and he picked up one of my hammers, examining it. "You're so skilled," he said admiringly. "Though I don't know why you bother making weapons for common soldiers. They barely know how to use them properly." "They're people," I said quietly. "They deserve quality work." Henrik laughed. "People? Ragna, they're servants. Tools. You wouldn't mourn a broken hammer, would you?" He said it so casually, so naturally, like he was commenting on the weather. I'd heard him say things like that before, I realized with horror. Small comments about the lower classes. I'd always thought he was joking, or just repeating things he'd heard from other nobles. Now, I understood. He meant every word. "Henrik," I said carefully, "do you remember a girl named Elsa? She worked in your fortress kitchen?" Something flickered across his face, just for a moment. Then his expression smoothed into concern. "That name sounds familiar. Didn't she run away with some boy years ago?" He was lying. I could see it now. How had I never seen it before? That evening, I visited my mother in her cell. She smiled when she saw me, reaching through the bars to squeeze my hand. "Don't look so sad, daughter," she said. "At least you have Henrik. Promise me you'll be happy with him. He's such a good man. I'm so proud you found someone who loves you truly." I broke down, sobbing. She thought they were tears of fear for her. She didn't know I was crying because I finally saw the truth. The man I loved, the man my mother trusted, was a monster wearing a kind face, and I would have to kill him to save her. 25 days after I made the deal, a servant girl named Mari disappeared. She'd been helping prepare decorations for my wedding, hanging flowers in the great hall, arranging candles. Henrik had been there that morning, supervising. By afternoon, she was gone. I found her 2 days later in the stables, hidden behind hay bales. Bruises on her throat matched the size of a man's hands. The same pattern I'd seen in the Iron Judge's visions of Elsa. My hands shook as I covered her body. Henrik had killed again, while planning our wedding. while telling me he loved me. I couldn't wait anymore. That evening, I confronted him in the garden where we'd first kissed years ago. "Henrik, I need to ask you something, and I need the truth." "Anything," he said, taking my hands. His touch made my skin crawl now. "Did you kill Elsa, the servant girl from 3 years ago?" His face transformed into perfect shock and hurt. "What? Ragna, how could you even ask me that? Is someone spreading lies about me?" "Just answer the question." "No." He looked genuinely wounded, tears forming in his eyes. "I don't even remember a girl named Elsa. Why would I hurt anyone? You know me. You know my heart." He pulled me close, and I felt his heartbeat against my cheek, steady, calm, not the racing pulse of a liar. For a moment, I almost believed him, almost convinced myself the Iron Judge was wrong. Henrik felt so real, so sincere in my arms. Then I remembered Mari's broken neck, the other bodies, the crescent moon birthmark. "What about Mari?" I whispered. "The girl helping with our wedding. She's dead." Henrik pulled back, his expression shifting to confusion. "Dead? That's terrible. Was it an accident?" "Someone killed her." "Then we must find who did this," he said firmly, convincingly. "I'll tell my cousin to investigate immediately. No one should die in our fortress." He kissed my forehead. "You're safe with me, I promise." He was so good at lying, so practiced. If I hadn't seen the truth, I would have believed every word. That night, the brand reached my elbow. I screamed as molten iron seemed to flow through my veins. My father found me collapsed in the forge, delirious with pain. The mark glowed brighter now, pulsing like a heartbeat. Time was running out. Worse news came the next morning. The tribunal had moved up my mother's execution. 10 days, the magistrate announced. We cannot wait 40 for justice. 10 days. I had 10 days to kill the man I loved, or watch my mother burn. Henrik came to the forge that afternoon with new plans. "I spoke to the magistrate," he said excitedly. "We'll have our wedding the day after the tribunal. I convinced him to let us marry before—" He stopped himself, but I knew. Before my mother died, so she could at least see me wed. He thought he was being kind. I started forging a blade that night, using techniques my grandfather had taught me. Ancient methods for making weapons that could kill more than flesh. The Iron Judge had shown me the patterns in a vision. Runes along the blade, blood mixed into the quenching water. I was crying so hard I could barely see the metal. "Ragna!" I spun around. Henrik stood in the doorway, concern etched on his face. He rushed to me, wiping away my tears with his thumbs. "My love, what's wrong? Is it your mother? I'm so sorry. I wish I could do more to help her." He held me while I sobbed against his chest. His arms felt safe and strong and familiar. This was the boy I'd fallen in love with under the river willows. The man who made me laugh, who knew all my secrets, who promised me forever. He was also a murderer who would kill again, and I loved him. Gods help me, I still loved him. The tribunal took less than an hour. I sat in the back of the hall while 3 judges, all Lord Aldrich's allies, declared my mother guilty of witchcraft through poisoning. They moved her execution to the next morning. "No!" I screamed, but guards held me back. I had 1 night left, 1 chance. At midnight, I found Henrik in his chambers. "Come with me," I said. "I need to show you something secret." He followed without question, trusting me completely. Why wouldn't he? I was the woman he loved, who was supposed to marry him tomorrow while my mother burned. I led him down to the ancient dungeon, to the iron cell. He looked around, confused. "Ragna, what is this place?" It's where I learned the truth about you. My voice cracked. I know about Elsa, about the stable boy, the other servant girl, the merchant's son, about Mari. Henrik's face went pale. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then his shoulders began to shake. He was crying. I tried to stop, he whispered, sliding down the wall. Gods, Ragna, I tried. After Elsa, I swore I'd never do it again. But then someone would disrespect me, and I'd feel this rage, and I couldn't control it. He looked up at me with desperate, red-rimmed eyes. I'm sick. Something's wrong with me, but I can change. I swear I can change. Help me, please. I love you. We can figure this out together. My heart shattered. Part of me, the part that had loved him for 10 years, wanted so badly to believe him, to take his hand and run away and pretend none of this was real. But I'd seen Mari's body, and the Iron Judge didn't lie. 6 people, I said numbly. You've killed 6 people. I know. Henrik was sobbing now. I know, I'm a monster, but I don't want to be. You make me better, Ragna. You're the only good thing in my life. Please don't give up on me. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. Lord Aldrich appeared, face grim. I followed you both, he said quietly. I've suspected Henrik for months. Found evidence. I just didn't want to believe my own cousin could... He stopped, looking at Henrik with something between pity and disgust. The temperature dropped. The Iron Judge rose from the floor, towering over us all, eyes blazing. Images of molten metal formed in the air. Henrik's victims, each crime shown in undeniable detail. 6 deaths. 6 souls crying for justice. Lord Aldrich stared, horrified. Then he looked at me. Your mother is innocent. I see that now. And Henrik... He closed his eyes. The choice is yours, Ragna. I won't stop you. I won't punish you. He's earned this. Henrik looked at me, tears streaming down his face. I understand, he whispered. I deserve this. I'm glad it's you. At least I'll die loved. At least my last moment will be with you. I pulled out the blessed blade, my hands shaking so hard I could barely hold it. I love you, Henrik said. I'm sorry for everything. Please remember the good times. Please don't let this be all I was to you. I drove the blade into him, sobbing his name. The Iron Judge accepted the sacrifice. The brand on my arm vanished. Henrik died in my arms, whispering that he loved me until his last breath. My mother was freed at dawn. The charges disappeared. She lived. But I've never stopped seeing Henrik's face, never stopped loving him, never forgiven myself, even though I know I made the right choice. I became the fortress's judge, serving the Iron Judge's justice. But at night, I still dream of a boy by the river who taught me to read, who promised me forever, whom I finished to save my mother. Some choices are right and wrong at the same time. I learned to live with that.